Basketball, you have that midweek game. I think it's I forgot how the scheduling goes ever since they went to 16 teams, but every now and again you'll have a Saturday to Saturday. But for the most part, you'll sprinkle in either a Tuesday or Wednesday game.
And that's like their off week.
Correct, yes. Yeah. And some really intriguing matchups starting today and going into tomorrow. The Georgia Bulldogs will face Florida. The defending national champion Florida Gators, they've already lost
more games
this year than they have in their championship run. Of course, they don't have the star players, Walter Clayton Jr. and lots of others that helped them cut down the nets in San Antonio. But this is a Georgia team that is on the way up and a Florida team that's on the way down. Not what you expected to see when the season started.
No, and I mean, when you look, we just talked about this Georgia team a few minutes ago, and what a big win against a perennially good Auburn team to be able to, fight off a stingy Auburn team that was able to force overtime, ended up pulling out the 104-100 win at home. I believe it was Georgia's first win over Auburn in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just such a momentum builder. And then you go up against the defending national champions who, as you mentioned, they're down right now because they just lost by 2 points to Missouri. And we don't know what to expect from this Florida team here this year. And I really think that this is a major chance for this Georgia team to make a statement with a win, kind of assert themselves like, hey, we're here to play in the SEC, and this is our chance to have a major year.
Yeah, and these two teams, obviously in football, it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party between Georgia and Florida. I don't think any such names exist, nicknames exist on the basketball floor.
Maybe you could say indoor?
Yeah, maybe the largest indoor cocktail party. I think a lot of Florida fans will be wanting some drinks if they lose this game, considering what their season has been so far this year. But these two teams have a really interesting history. Of course, I think Florida's the one that has been on the right side of most of these games. You see that last win by the Georgia Bulldogs was last February, and
that was the last loss for Florida before this season.
That's right. But meanwhile, the Florida Gators, like I said, went on to win the championship. But this is a really intriguing matchup here because, like you said, Georgia can really make a statement, not just to the SEC, but to everybody else as well. And I think if you're Florida and you want a bounce-back win, this is now a good shot now at a bounce-back win because they have been really close. And I just had to jot down their losses. And I remembered the one at the beginning of the season, but I forgot just how close a lot of these games have been. Lost by 1 point to Duke, 4 to UConn, 6 points to Arizona at the beginning of the season, 4 points to TCU. So, yeah, they have lost these games. They're losing these games against elite competition, TCU not included in that, of course, just Duke, UConn, and Arizona there. So it seems to me that if you're Todd Golden, you at least have your guys to say, hey, look, I know we haven't started out the way we wanted to from a win-loss perspective, but we are right there, and now a chance to do it against a ranked team.
Well, I think if you're at home watching this, and you're the average fan, and when you're trying to look for teams to pick in March to go far when you're filling out your bracket, I think this is a perfect example on why good guard play is so important when it comes to March. They fell to Missouri Saturday, but they had a chance to win the game, and they had a chance to win so many games last year. But when you look at the guards that they had last year, Walter Clayton and Will Richard, those guys were some dogs.
Right.
But you bring in Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland, and you expect Boogie Fland to have a major piece to this year. And you just look at it, and he goes 2 for 10 from the field and scores 6 points. And then Xavier Lee, I think Xavier Lee is starting to find his groove a little bit. He's been playing better since the beginning of the season, but still 11 points, combined 17 points from the two guards that you paid good money to come to your program to try and help Thomas Howe and Alex Condon in that front court. That's a national championship winning front court.
Easily.
Yeah, you pair them with maybe Darius Acuff Jr. over there at Arkansas and LeBaron Philon. That team wins the national championship every time just because that front court is so good. But the major difference between this year's Florida team and last year's Florida team is last year's Florida team had a guy that they could give the ball to at the end of the game to get them a major bucket to win the game. They had that killer instinct, and that was either Walter Clayton or when it wasn't him, it was Will Richard. This year, they don't have that. They had Boogie Fland take the last shot, which I still don't understand why you would have Boogie Fland after the start to the year.
Right.
If anything, I'd get the ball into Howe or even give it to Xavier Lee.
Right. And I think that I wonder how much of that result would shift what Todd Golden is going to do with his team in the future. Like, hey, we've tried with you, and now we're going to have to go to a different hand because, like we said, they're playing these close games. They will need that killer instinct. They'll need that guy to help close it out. They'll have to find it, and I wonder if the game gets close tonight, if they go to somebody else instead of Boogie Fland. I would think so.
What's the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting something different?
Yep,
I mean, it's just at some point you have to put the team ahead of what you're paying these guys.
Right.
You pay these guys to win, not only to get great production out of them. And you just can't still over and over again go to the same guys and expect a different result at some point just because of the name. Sometimes these players aren't a good fit in your system, and it's unfortunate, but there's nothing you can do about it now. You just have to rely on the guys that you know you can rely on, especially that front court, and just somehow
more in the middle of the games, that have put us in a position where we're a little behind in moments. But with that being said, so to lead under 4, had a wide open shot to extend it under 4, and couldn't capitalize on it. And I think unable to get some big stops down the stretch also were an issue on Saturday. One possession with the lead, gave up 2 offensive rebounds that led to a layup, which was a killer. And then when you play these tight games, man, some 50-50 plays are going to dictate the difference, and Robinson hits a big bank 3 with 40 seconds left or whatever it was, and was really tough for us to overcome. But I think it's obviously our shooting has been the biggest issue for us, continues to be. I think we played well in a lot of other areas. I didn't think we played defensively as well as we need to in a game like that to win. And, I didn't think we were on the glass as well as we need to in a game like that to win. So those were the biggest factors on Saturday night for me.
So they'll try to find some answers as they face off against the Georgia Bulldogs in this one for Coach Mike White and company. 13-1 season, 1-0 start in the Southeastern Conference. They've made their mark so far in the non-conference. They've won their first game in SEC play. I do think that building on that is going to be huge, and obviously you can't put the cart before the horse. But I do feel like there is something left to be proven with this basketball team, and not necessarily I don't believe in them, but I still want to see. I know it's 14 games. I still want to see a little bit more from this squad.
Just a little bit, just for them to be able to get that big time win. And I know Auburn looks maybe like it. If Auburn is able to turn things around, I think that's going to be a very quality win as the season starts to progress. But when you look at this season so far, the only game they lost was the Charleston Classic championship to Clemson.
Yes.
And that's been the lone blemish right now. But I think you've got to rely on Jeremiah Wilkinson. He just had that 31-point game against Auburn, hit a few dagger threes to basically ice the game for Georgia there. So I think he's a guy that you can rely on. We talked about Samto Surreal and his blocking ability, such a major piece there on the defensive side. And then the X factor, in my opinion, is Blue Kane. What can you get out of a guy that's been there for a few years and can lead this Georgia team to potentially a 2 or a 3 seed in the SEC tournament once it comes March?
I think so, and we talked about it on the Florida side. Can you find that guy? Can you find that playmaker? It looks like Georgia has. You mentioned Surreal on the defensive side. It looks like he's going to be a stud down there as well. I think that's going to be a great battle tonight with Condon and Surreal, and just whoever they match up Surreal with down low, because Florida is obviously going to want to go down to the low post and try to see if they can get some easy baskets And with a defensive presence like Surreal, this could be the coming out game for Surreal as well. I know Saturday was a good one, but to be able to do that against the national champions and build upon that, I think would be huge for him as well.
Now, I will say this. I know he had the 5 blocks against Auburn, but I would fully expect Florida's game plan to be go right at him.
Yeah.
If you let Condon and Howe both go drive into the paint and just go up with the basketball, at some point Surreal's going to start taking fouls.
Yeah.
And once he gets into foul trouble, I think that's where Florida has the major advantage. So on the flip side, I think that's going to be a major storyline to keep an eye on as this game goes on. Can Surreal stay out of foul trouble? If he does, it's going to come down to the guard play, and Georgia's a lot better than Florida is with their guards.
On the back end of this soundbite, but first let's listen to head coach Mike White on building the momentum after that Auburn win.
Yeah, anytime you beat, a high-level program, you're excited about it, and we've had some close ones, and again, this one could have gone either way, but it could have been deflating, obviously, and we'd have to have an even bigger response. Since we've used that word so much in this presser, with a loss. So hopefully the way we played down the stretch, especially offensively, and we got 2 or 3 stops there late. Hopefully it gives us some confidence moving forward. Because you got to play with confidence. You got to play with a little bit of swagger in this league down the stretch to claw out some of these close wins.
It's kind of funny listening to both guys talk, because Golden's talking about finding ways to close out games, and that takes confidence, and that takes a bit of swagger in what you're doing. And Mike White, he's talking about it in a different form. He's talking about it in the sense of like, hey, we can't rest on our laurels, but in order to walk into these environments with a number on our name, being ranked and with our record, it's going to be dependent on our mindset going in. I told you I had a quick quiz for you on the back end.
Here we go.
So Georgia in the AP poll, obviously that's based a lot on record, is ranked number 13, I believe. Let me go back just to triple check that. I believe it's 13
on record.
On the
strength
on
record.
the polls. They were 23rd going into the Auburn game. They are now 18th. Sorry, 18th going into it. What do you think they are in Ken Palm?
You said it was a little bit surprising. I want to say that they're 11th.
Surprising in the other direction. They're actually 26th.
Okay.
So that's the reason why it's surprising, because it feels like the metrics don't necessarily believe in them as much as the voters do. Now, I think I know the reason why. Give me what you think their non-conference strength of schedule was, because we've only played one game in conference, so their non-conference strength of schedule.
I mean, when I'm thinking about it, they played, I think, 2 P4 opponents. It was Xavier and Clemson, so it's got to be in like the 100s.
The 300s. 334th on the non-conference strength of
there's
record.
361 teams in D1, right?
365 now.
365.
They've added a few. Yes, at 365, they are 334th. So
Mike White, what are we doing?
And maybe to the point that the soundbite you just played, maybe building that confidence and swagger is just being able to get W's and just scheduling easy, getting those W's, and hoping that rolls into SEC play. That's the only thing I could think of. But I was blown away when I saw that. I was like, hang on a second.
Well, I will say this. I think when I was looking at them and trying to do some research on them, we talked about Maryland Eastern Shore with Noah Gross a few weeks ago.
Right.
We were like, oh, well, I hope Texas wins that game. I think they beat them 92-28.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you get?
What was that? Who did they play in that one?
Maryland Eastern Shore.
Maryland Eastern Shore.
I think it was 92-28.
Wow. Yeah. Maryland Eastern Shore is 335, by the way. The worst team in all of college basketball is Mississippi Valley State. Then you have Coppin State, Binghamton, St. Francis, and Moravian State. Those are the 5.
Poor St. Francis.
I mean,
sad story.
Absolutely. And but no, I found that interesting with Georgia, because I do think there is still a prove-it metric with this Georgia Bulldogs team. And I think we'll find out a lot of it tonight. And if Florida can bounce back, kind of get themselves off the turf after losing a couple of close games.
Big chance for them.
I think that'd be interesting as well. Yeah, absolutely. No question about it.